There is my plate. Oh, across the river to Hun's plate. Let's do this, babe. Dig in. Hey everyone, I'm Antoinette. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to get straight into a pot roast. That's right, a slow cooker pot roast recipe for dinner. We're gonna do the whole thing. It's gonna be fork tender pot roast. We're gonna have the mashed potatoes. We're gonna do the gravy. We're gonna do the carrots. We're gonna do all of that in this video. And it feels like it's been a minute since I've done any type of cooking videos. You know, on this channel I like to make travel, food, and lifestyle videos. And since I can't travel because y'all know why, now it's time to get back into the cooking portion. So today we're gonna make a delicious Sunday pot roast. Again, it's gonna be in the slow cooker crock pot. It's super simple, super easy. Since it's in a crock pot, you don't even have to watch it that long. And I haven't made, I haven't made a video for cooking in ages. The last one I think I did was lemon pepper salmon. You can go ahead and check that recipe out in the card above or in the description down below. I also have like these quick weeknight recipes that you can check out. Just a few of them, you know, like naan pizza and panko crusted shrimp. But today it's all about the pot roast, so let's get into our ingredients. The first thing we're gonna need for this recipe is, of course, a delicious, beautiful, thick, look at how thick this thing is. This thing is like almost 2 inches thick chuck roast. You can also get a pot roast, and when you go to the grocery store, it'll actually say pot roast, and it'll be this kind of big, thick chunk. I actually prefer the chuck roast because it's nice and flat and even, and so this will make it easier to sear on either side. When you're picking out a meat, you also want to get something with just a little bit of fat, or if it does have a lot of fat, you can just get a knife and trim it off. You want a little bit of marbling in between here so you can get some good fat and some good flavor. So don't get anything with a ton of fat on it. And this, see this white part here? This is fat. If you see a ton of that, then either trim it off, but you want a good lean cut of beef with a little bit of marbling. And you can see the little fat marbles go in between there. That'll make it nice and juicy. You'll also need roughly 3 large cloves of fresh garlic, a red onion, a 1-pound bag of peeled baby cut carrots. Optional is a set of pre-washed, cut, sliced mushrooms, 4 to 5 large potatoes, or about 6 medium-sized potatoes. It could be any kind of potato you want for the mashed potatoes. A tablespoon and a half of creole seasoning, some extra virgin olive oil, a packet of brown gravy, some green onions, salt and pepper to taste, garlic powder, and just a little bit of milk, maybe about a 1/3 cup, and 3 to 4 massive tablespoons of butter. You'll need a big old crock pot that's big enough to fit that roast in it. It doesn't have to be a programmable one, but a basic one with just high-low will do just nicely. Let's go ahead and chop up our garlic as well as our onion, and then we'll get to browning and searing our meat. So we want to go ahead and cut on our heat for our stove. We're going to put that bad boy at about a 6.5 to 7. We want to get a nice good sear on our meat, so it's got to be at a medium to high heat. We're also going to add about 1/4 cup of olive oil into the pan so that our meat doesn't burn. And while this is heating up, we're going to focus on mincing our garlic and chopping our onion. So we're gonna just take off the edge right here. We're gonna chop a few slices of onion here. And as you can see, it's not very thick at all. It's maybe a little less than 1/4 inch that we're slicing. 3 of those. And from there, we're just gonna remove all of the outsides. We don't need all this extra kind of crispy outsides. We don't need those at all. And so we're not going to finely chop these. We're actually just going to stack them. And we're going to chop them once in half here, once in half again on this side. And then we're going to take our fingers and we're just going to separate them. You know, each little thing is they're in concentric circles. So we're just going to use our fingers to separate. But your eyes are probably going to water like mine are. So then now you have this nice stack of onions here. We have our garlic back here. So we're all good and all chopped up. This is where our Creole seasoning comes in handy. So we're gonna open this bad boy up and we're going to sprinkle a nice, generous coat of Creole seasoning all over this meat. And one of the things that I like to do, we come from like, you know, my peoples come from Louisiana, so we love our Creole seasoning, we love our garlic, we love a good sear and a saute. So what we're actually gonna do is we're gonna infuse some garlic flavor actually inside into the meat and fill that bad boy up with Creole seasoning. Here we go. We season the first side. We're just gonna flip this bad boy around and season the back side of it and get the sides of that bad boy. We're gonna flip it back around. Now is where our flavor packets come in. We're gonna take our knife and we're just gonna poke a hole right in the meat. This hole is not going to go all the way through, but it's just going to create like a little pocket. And you want to get holes in like the thickest chunk of meat. So in total we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is a big piece of meat. If you have a smaller piece of meat, you don't need as many. And we're just going to take our Creole seasoning, right? So we poked one of the holes. So we're just going to take our Creole seasoning and we are going to fill that hole with Creole seasoning. And we're gonna fill the other holes just like it. Just kind of stick your finger in there, create a little pocket, and then fill it up with Creole seasoning. Once you have all those holes filled up, we'll take a pinch of our garlic and we're just gonna stuff it. We're just gonna stuff our garlic in every single hole. Get in there. Yummy, yummy, yummy. Get in there, garlic. And so now that it's all stuffed, you take whatever remaining garlic you have and you just sprinkle it all over your meat. This is what your meat should look like before you put it in the pan. It should have Creole seasoning all over the front, back, and sides, as well as these Creole seasoning and garlic infused little pockets everywhere, and the remaining garlic you can just sprinkle all over the top. You do not need to flip this and create pockets on the other side. And yep, our grease is ready. And there's a couple ways you can tell if the grease is ready. First is that it creates like a nice little river, but the second is the water test. If you were to get a little bit of water, hear that pop? The pop is good. This bad boy is heavy, so we're just gonna take this thing and put it right in the middle of the pan. Yeah, there we go. We're gonna get the grease to go underneath and to the side. So our goal is to have a nice, beautiful, seared brown on our meat. And this can vary based on the size and the weight of the meat. If you have like a 1 pound chuck roast, then you maybe want to sear it for maybe like 5 minutes. Since ours is a thick chuck roast of 2 pounds, it'll take a couple minutes to sear on either side. And you can flip it to kind of check to see what's going on, or just gently lift it just to see what it looks like. But make sure that it's a beautiful brown and not burnt. So you put the beef in the pan, garlic side up. It's been a couple minutes. Oh yeah, do you see this brown I'm talking about? This is a good sear. Yes, so we're gonna take our meat and we're gonna flip it. This is the kind of sear we want. It's got a beautiful, kind of nice, dark brown color. So it looks like we have a good sear on the bottom side. We're just gonna get a little bit of the side. This is perfect. So now we're gonna lift up our crock pot handle. And we're gonna throw this bad boy right into this crock pot. Grab your tongs. Oh, it's heavy. We're just gonna, nothing on the bottom, we're just gonna leave it there. And you notice that while cooking the beef, your pan has these little like kind of beef scrapes on it all around the edges. That's called fond. And the fond is basically all of the residue from the beef that was searing. This is super flavorful stuff. To get this cool flavorful stuff into the crock pot, we're gonna do what's known as deglazing. And deglazing is just a fancy term for adding water in the pan to get all this delicious fond up and into our pot roast. So I'm gonna grab my pan. While it's hot, I'm gonna add about a cup of water. And you can see here, it's gonna smoke And look at that. You see? Instantly the water is going to turn kind of a nice brown. Oh yeah. We're just gonna get all of that fond up. Sometimes you may have to scrape it because I'm using a non-stick pan here. Nothing needs to be scraped. All right, I'm just gonna take this juice. We're gonna pour it right on top of the pot roast. And so now we have our seared pot roast in here. We have our fond and all of the juices that this is going to create. So next we want to add our onions. Here we go, our onions. Just go ahead and dump all those in there. Now we're going to add our lid. And if you have a crock pot with a to-go kind of lid that kind of latches shut, do not, I repeat, do not use these latches to shut this crock pot lid and tighten it and seal it off. This is not a pressure cooker, this is a crock pot. Do not latch these lids, leave them loose and open. And now we're gonna select low for 8 hours. After about 4 hours of cooking in the crock pot, we're gonna add our mushrooms and our carrots, let it cook for another 4 hours, and then it'll be time to make the mashed potatoes. While our pot roast is cooking, we're gonna go ahead and clean the dishes like we always do, because we don't want to come back to a dirty kitchen. Right, now that we have our potatoes here, I'm gonna chop them into larger cubes and then put them in this plastic bowl, getting ready for when we are making our mashed potatoes. Continuing to film this, one great supplement to the pot roast is if you are looking for any type of like green vegetable or anything to go with it, a fresh garden salad is the absolute perfect complement. It's about 8:15, 8:16 it just turned, and we can kind of see all of the condensation on the top of the lid from our pot roast. Ooh, it's gonna be so good. So as we enter the last 30 minutes of cooking the pot roast, I'm gonna go ahead and start on the mashed potatoes and gravy, and in 30 minutes time, we will have a complete and full meal. So first I'm gonna add water to this pan, salt it, and go ahead and turn this bad boy. I want it to boil. Yes, we're making potatoes from scratch. I'm putting this bad boy on 8. We've got our water about 3/4 of the way full. We're gonna put maybe a half a teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of freshly ground pepper, and of course you remember these bad boys, our potatoes. And this may splash, so go gently. Starting from the end, I'll begin to chop. And this is what they look like, the final size each of all of our green onions. We're gonna add these to the mashed potatoes once they are done boiling. Okay, 8:45, let's check on our potatoes. Let's check on our potatoes. We stir them up. If you take a fork and if you just gently try to stab one of the potatoes, if it goes through easily, that's how you know your potatoes are good to go. Strain out the potatoes and transfer them back. All right, so remember how I said put the 3 big scoops of butter in? Now is the perfect time, and we have to do that quickly. We're gonna add some salt in here, half a teaspoon or so to taste, some more freshly cracked pepper, a little garlic powder. This is about a half a teaspoon. Mash these bad boys up. Ready to eat, him?
Yep.
And once you add the milk, you've got to whip really quickly. If the potatoes are still too thick for your liking, add just a little bit more milk at a time. Do not add a ton of milk because this can get really milky really quickly. Boom. You see that? That was like a teaspoon's worth of milk. We're gonna take some of the green onions we chopped earlier, about a teaspoon's worth, and add it to our mashed potatoes for extra flavor. Mix those bad boys in. And there you have it, fluffy, homemade, garlicky, buttery, slightly oniony mashed potatoes, fresh from scratch. And I had the potatoes boiling for maybe about 15 to 20 minutes. We're gonna put a lid on them so they can kind of keep warm. Now for the final step of our process. It is officially 8:53. Our crock pot has now turned on to warm, which means we are getting ready to eat. I've got the brown gravy mix. I'm gonna show you my little hack for brown gravy mix. Cut on our heat for this little teeny pan. And so this requires medium heat. So we're gonna put it at about 5. As you can see, gravy mix is nothing special. We're gonna add it to here. Next, we're gonna take the lid off of this. But oh, look at that, hon. Look at that. You know what it is. You know what time it is, babe.
It's feasting time. Yeah,
so we're gonna take 1 full cup of all this delicious juice. Do you see do you see all of this just delicious juice? I mean, this is all natural juice, y'all. No artificial anything in here. If you wanted to use just the natural juices for a gravy, you take a cup of this juice and then add it to maybe about a tablespoon of flour or a teaspoon of cornstarch, mix it up and put it right back in here and let it sit for a little while longer. I'm gonna try to get as much gravy as possible so I can get it to the 1 cup mark down here. I just added about 1/4 cup of extra water to it. Slowly stir in our pan drippings. And you have to stir in slowly as well as whisk as best as possible, because this stuff will clump up a little bit. And then eventually you just dump the whole thing in. And it's okay if there's a few little pieces of residue from the carrots and the mushrooms and the onions. That's okay. That is okay. But on the whole, this should be a pretty smooth, nice and thick gravy. Now we're gonna check on our pot roast again. Oh, we are good to go. So look at just how this barely even pulls apart. Like, this is just so easy. Like, I'm barely even tapping it and it just like falls apart. See what I mean? Oh, just how smoky fork tender this is. Yes. Our gravy has simmered down to a slow crawl. Oh, looks so good. Now this is the best part of all, where everything comes together in a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful dinner. I'm gonna take a massive scoop of my mashed potatoes right here. Maybe another massive scoop, you know. Right in the center. And since I love gravy so much, I'm going to press down a nice little bowl or nice little round pit of gravy. I am that gravy pit chick. Stir and grab a nice thick ladle full of gravy. Yes. Oh my goodness. Yes, 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 yes. Now grab my tongs and finish pulling apart, which is not that hard to do. The meat, I'm just barely like pinching it. So I'm gonna grab a nice thick helping of this beef. Put it right on top. Grab some mushrooms and some carrots and just pile it on. There's no right or wrong way to plate this, y'all. Just pile it on top. Gravy Queen's gonna add a whole fresh ladle gravy right on top of everything. And to top it all off, we have our green onions. Ta-da! And there you have it. This is our dinner. This is a full homemade pot roast, fresh, literally right out of the crock pot. We made fresh, garlicky, buttery, oniony mashed potatoes. We did a gravy. Again, if you want the home style gravy without the packet, you just add about a tablespoon of flour or a teaspoon of cornstarch to the cup of gravy. Keep mixing until it's the desired consistency you want. If you like it a little bit thicker, add more either flour or cornstarch until you get the consistency you want. But this is it, y'all. This is our final product. Oh my goodness. I cannot wait to eat, and as soon as we're done eating, I'll show you how to bag this up and freeze it, because this recipe creates 4 massive servings. Baby, you ready to eat?
I'm definitely ready.
Oh, he's so ready. See how serious? So serious. So ready. And there's my plate. Oh, across the river to Hun's plate. Let's do this, babe. Dig in. Hun's doing the dishes, meal all over. Good meal, Hun.
I didn't make it.
Ah, yeah, you did. Did you enjoy it?
Yeah.
Oh, yep. So now Hun's on dish duty. And this is what we have left over of the whole entire pot roast. You saw how full it was, almost to the top. But now we have approximately half. That big recipe was good for 4 meals. And now we have to plate it. And I tell you what, when you freeze this stuff, when you freeze this fork tender slow cooker crock pot roast, it tastes even better the second time around, no lie. So let's go ahead and bag this stuff up right now. So to freeze it, you just grab a gallon Ziploc bag, put the date on it, and then fill up. Thank you, Hun. Oof, see how juicy tender? There we go. Grab the meat first, put it straight to the bottom of the bag. And you want to make sure that you cut the crock pot off too, so you don't want to burn a hole through your bag. And all you have left are the extra juice, which we're going to use that juice to make another round of gravy the next time we have this meal. But then we want to add all of the carrots. And we just got to pour all the juice right on inside. Get out all of the air and then zip this thing shut. So there you have it. Your next meal is already done for the most part. You just have to make a fresh batch of potatoes. Get out the crock pot again. You may want to put it on high for about 4 hours. Make a new fresh batch of gravy with all the juice left here. And you add your mashed potatoes and your meal is set. I am absolutely stuffed full from that meal, and oh my goodness, y'all. But I still had a little bit of room in my stomach to make a nice little small plate extra with extra gravy.
That wasn't no small plate. That was another second helping.
Y'all, he's trying to put me on blast. On camera.
I'm just calling it like how I see it.
Oh, okay, so I have another plate. I'm gonna eat that right now. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to click subscribe to my channel where I like to make content on travel, food, and lifestyle. You can check out my other weeknight dinner playlist. The description's down below, and you'll see it at the end of this video, possibly. I don't know if you have any ideas for another video. I really want to do one on a different salmon dish, so stay tuned for that, and we'll catch y'all in the next video. Bye! Does this look like a little serving to you? I think it's little. Hun says it's a big serving. This is my second serving, and I don't know. Comment down below if you think this is a big serving or a little serving, and then we'll settle this debate once and for all, y'all. Alright, I'm out.